God willing, a family.
So you want me to marry you then?
Well, that's a bit sudden, but all right.
If you were born in the late 90s or early 2000, you probably must have watched Braveheart, a film co-produced by Mel Gibson, Alan Ladd Jr., and Bruce Davey. If you recall, this particular film was known for its face paint, big battles, and the popular shout, "Freedom!" However, did you know that there are some strange and shocking facts about Braveheart that most fans may not be aware of? From funny mistakes to unscripted scenes, a lot happened behind the camera. Join us as we count down to 20 of such weird facts. Number 20, real screams. One of the most surprising facts about Braveheart is that the screams heard during the intense battle scenes were not specially edited or manipulated in any way. They were real voices. Director Mel Gibson wanted the war scenes to feel loud, busy, raw, and alive, so he told the extras to scream at the top of their lungs during filming. Imagine how uncomfortable it must have been for those behind the camera. While most action films rely on recorded sound effects or background noise, Braveheart wanted something different. The plan was to get hundreds of people to scream from their guts while running into a fake battle, and it worked perfectly. According to Mel, it spiced up the movie a little, making the war scenes feel louder, messier, and more human. He claimed that the screams' unique blend of soprano and bass voices made it appear more realistic and unedited. Some actors even admitted to having sore throats and serious coughing by the end of the day. They yelled so much during certain takes that they could barely speak after the shoot. How unbelievable! However, in an unexpected twist, this unusual method brought energy and emotions, including rage, fear, anger, and excitement, to the screen, allowing viewers not just to watch but also to connect. Later, the sound system cleaned up the recordings and incorporated them into the final version of the movie. That is why most people remain in disbelief. They keep arguing that those screams were fake, but honestly, they're not. It's the sound of real people giving their full voice to a story of freedom and fight. Next. Number 19, the script's origins.
I didn't think of myself as having a passion.
The story behind Braveheart's script is almost as unexpected as the film's success. Screenwriter Randall Wallace had no experience writing for film when he began working on the story. He was a novelist and television writer who became fascinated by the legend of William Wallace after visiting Scotland for the first time. While standing at the Wallace Monument, he realized he knew nothing about the man it honored. That moment sparked the idea that later became Braveheart. Randall returned home and began writing. Even though he had never written a screenplay before, he poured emotion, history, and imagination into the script. When he finished it, he passed it along to agencies and studios. As usual, nobody paid attention or found anything about it at first, so it ended up in what the film industry calls a slush pile, a stack of unrequested or unreviewed scripts that are often ignored. Then coincidentally, Mel Gibson's production company, Icon Productions, came across the script, and director Gibson read it and found the story deeply moving. He was really impressed not just by the emotional depth, but also by the potential for powerful visuals and drama. That lucky discovery led Gibson to contact Wallace, and within months, Braveheart was in early planning stages. The script, once buried in a forgotten pile, went on to earn Randall Wallace an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay. It proves that even unknown writers with no film credits can break through if the story is strong enough and the right person reads it. Are you surprised by this fact? Number 18. An actor accidentally broke his nose but kept filming. Imagine breaking your nose just because of a movie. Would you continue filming, or would you end your contract and rush to a doctor? For most people, the answer is easy, but actor Brendan Gleeson chose something very few would. While filming one of Braveheart's intense battle scenes, Gleeson, who played the fiery Irish warrior Hamish, accidentally got hit in the face with a weapon and broke his nose. The pain was real. His nose was swollen and blood was visible on it, but instead of stopping or asking for help, he stayed in character and pushed through the scene. The crew quickly realized something had gone wrong, but Brendan waved them off and finished filming. His decision surprised even Mel Gibson, who was both directing and acting in the movie. Gibson later praised Gleeson's toughness and commitment, calling it one of the boldest things he saw on set. Ironically, Hamish was supposed to be a rough and fearless character, and Gleeson's real injury only made him seem more convincing. Most fans watching the scene had no idea that the pain on screen was not fake. It was real and completely unplanned. This moment became one of the strangest and most impressive stories from behind the scenes of Braveheart. It showed how far the cast was willing to go to make the movie unforgettable. Next. Number 17. 15-year age gap between Mel and the real Wallace. When Mel Gibson took on the role of William Wallace, he brought passion, intensity, and star power to the screen. However, one thing he did not bring was age accuracy. At the time of filming Braveheart, Gibson was nearly 40 years old. The real William Wallace, according to most historians, was only in his early 30s when he led the fight for Scottish independence and was executed in 1305. This age gap of over 15 years raised eyebrows for some viewers who were familiar with Wallace's true history. In the film, Wallace was portrayed as a seasoned warrior and romantic hero. But in reality, Wallace was a young, bold leader whose rise came at a much earlier age. Still, the emotional weight and dramatic flair Gibson added to the role made many audiences overlook the age difference. The focus was on Wallace's bravery and sacrifice, not his birth certificate. While it may not be historically precise, the decision worked cinematically. It helped turn Braveheart into a powerful epic that connected with viewers across generations. Even with the age gap, Gibson's performance remains one of the most iconic portrayals in historical film. Number 16. Historians were not impressed. Although Braveheart was highly regarded, winning 5 Academy Awards and becoming a fan favorite worldwide, many historians reacted very differently. While the film was visually stunning and emotionally powerful, experts in Scottish history noted significant inaccuracies. Names, dates, battles, costumes, and even basic facts were changed or invented for dramatic effect. For example, the film shows Wallace wearing a kilt, but kilts were not worn in Scotland until centuries later. The romance between Wallace and Princess Isabella was completely fictional. In reality, Isabella would have been a young child in France at the time Wallace had passed away. Other historical errors included incorrect battle locations, flawed political alliances, and the inaccurate portrayal of Wallace's rebellion. Some historians have gone so far as to call the film a complete historical mess. While Mel Gibson admitted to taking creative liberties, critics argued that the film misled millions about Scottish history. The Scottish historian Sharon Crossa once said, "The events are fiction, the characters are fiction, even the clothing is fiction." Despite the backlash from the academic world, fans loved the movie for its emotional strength and memorable lines. For many viewers, Braveheart was not about historical accuracy, but about spirit, courage, and the pursuit of freedom. It may not be a history lesson, but it is undeniably powerful storytelling. Do you agree with this? Number 15. No bridge in the Stirling Bridge Battle. You would think that if a battle is named after a bridge, the bridge itself would at least make a guest appearance, but not in Braveheart. The famous Battle of Stirling Bridge did not include a bridge at all. Instead of depicting Scottish rebels using the narrow bridge to trap the English, the filmmakers opted for an open field and a dramatic charge. It was great for slow motion and muddy sword fights, but not so great for historical accuracy. Why leave out the bridge? The actual location was too small for filming and perhaps too unappealing for Hollywood standards. Some fans joked that the bridge must have had a scheduling conflict or asked for too much money. Either way, its absence is a big one for history lovers. In reality, the Scots won the battle because the English had to cross a very narrow bridge in small numbers. The Scots waited and then launched an attack while the enemy was divided. It was a brilliant strategy. However, in the movie, Wallace simply charged and screamed and won so much for tactics. Ultimately, the bridge was cut for cinematic reasons. However, historians are still shaking their heads and probably still waiting for that bridge to appear. Next. Number 14. Mel Gibson was not the first choice for Wallace. Believe it or not, Mel Gibson was not the first name tossed around to play William Wallace. Shocking, right? The man who made freedom sound like a war cry was actually second in line. The original choice was none other than Liam Neeson. Yes, the same Liam who later became famous for saying, "I will find you and I will kill you." Sounds like Wallace energy, doesn't it? Neeson was reportedly considered when the film was still in its early stages, and there were whispers about other actors too, including Jason Patric. However, once Gibson got involved as a director, he eventually cast himself in the lead role. Some people raised eyebrows about the age gap, but when you're funding and directing the film, you get to swing the sword. It's funny to imagine what Braveheart would have looked like with Liam Neeson leading the charge. Maybe Wallace would have had a very specific set of medieval skills. However, Gibson's performance turned out to be iconic, and his wild-eyed freedom speech is now burned into movie history forever. So next time you watch Braveheart, just remember there was a moment when someone else nearly wore that blue face paint. Number 13, the ban. Braveheart may have won over fans and won awards, but not everyone was clapping. The film was initially banned in Malaysia upon its release, and yes, banned. Why? This was because of the violence, strong language, and a bit of nudity. The Malaysian censors were not ready for men in kilts yelling at each other with swords and questionable hygiene. What's even funnier is that some schools in the United Kingdom also discouraged students from watching it due to historical inaccuracies. Imagine being told you cannot watch a movie about your own country because it is too inaccurate and too violent at the same time. The film also stirred political debates in Scotland and England. Some claimed it encouraged anti-English feelings. Others simply said it was just a movie with more mud than meaning. Whatever the complaints, the bans and warnings only made people more curious because, let's face it, when someone tells you not to watch something, it suddenly becomes 10 times more interesting. Eventually, Braveheart reached most countries and became a cultural phenomenon. Number 12, Mel Gibson, sometimes directed without shoes on. A director with no shoes on? Now that's weird. The truth is, Mel Gibson is known for being a passionate, intense, and somewhat unpredictable man. He illustrated his unpredictability by going barefoot on set. Yes, while actors were covered in fake blood and chainmail, Gibson was walking around the set barefoot, as if he were on vacation in the Highlands. Why the barefoot look? No one knows for sure. Maybe it helped him feel closer to the land. Maybe his boots were uncomfortable. Or maybe he just forgot to pack socks. Some crew members joked that he was channeling his inner Wallace, wild and free-footed. Others probably just hoped he would not step on a sword. Directing a historical epic is hard enough, but doing it with bare feet seems like an extreme sport, especially when you're also acting in the same film and riding horses across uneven fields. Most people would worry about stepping on a rock. Mel Gibson was worried about winning Oscars. It became one of those quirky facts that crew members never forgot. So while the rest of the cast battled on screen, the man behind the camera was battling grass, gravel, and his toes. Number 11. Wallace's love story was made up. One of the most poignant aspects of Braveheart is William Wallace's secret marriage to Murren and the tragic consequences that follow. However, history tells a different story. There is no record of a Murren or any secret wedding. Most of Wallace's early life is unclear, and his romantic life even more so. The film's love story was entirely fictionalized to provide the audience with an emotional hook. To make it even juicier, the film added a romance between Wallace and Princess Isabella of France. That's double fiction. Isabella was a child in real life when Wallace passed away. Historically speaking, they never met. Not even a medieval pen pal situation. So why add these romances? Because nothing pulls the heartstrings like love, loss, and revenge. The invented relationships gave Wallace personal reasons to fight. Beyond just politics and freedom, audiences cried, critics cringed, and historians groaned. Still, the love story worked. It added depth to the battles and gave Wallace something to fight for. Even if Murren never existed and Isabella was still playing with dolls, the emotion felt real on screen. So yes, Wallace's love life in Braveheart was a beautiful lie. However, in Hollywood, beautiful lies make unforgettable movies. Number 10. One horse refused to fall. Imagine training a horse for weeks to do a specific stunt, and when the big moment comes, it says no. That is exactly what happened on the set of Braveheart. A particular horse was meant to dramatically fall during one of the intense battle scenes. Everything was ready, cameras rolled, extras roared, but the horse, it just stood there, as if it had missed the memo. The director called for a retake, but the horse again refused. Everyone tried to coax it, from treats to gentle nudges, but this four-legged rebel simply refused to fall. The crew burst out laughing. Even Mel Gibson cracked up. Eventually, they had to switch to a mechanical horse for that scene. The stubborn horse earned itself a small legend on set. Some even said it was smarter than the rest. It knew falling meant rolling in fake blood and mud, and decided to protect its dignity. In a movie filled with sword fights and high drama, this simple moment reminded everyone that animals have personalities too. Braveheart may have been about defiance and rebellion, but no one expected one of its quietest stars to refuse to bow down. That horse may not have earned a screen credit, but it earned the respect of everyone. Number 9. Mel Gibson kept forgetting his sword. Imagine being the star of an epic historical film and forgetting your most important prop again and again. That is what Mel Gibson kept doing while filming Braveheart. His massive sword was practically a character on its own, but Mel had a habit of walking off set without it. He would rehearse lines or give direction as a director, only to be halfway into a scene before someone shouted, "Where is your sword, Mel?" It became such a regular mistake that crew members started keeping an eye on the sword as much as on the cameras. Some joked they should tie it to his belt with a rope. One extra even said he once held the sword for him, just to keep the scene moving. Mel took it all in good humor. He blamed it on the stress of multitasking as both actor and director. Eventually, the prop department began placing the sword in obvious spots, like a lost puppy waiting to be found. While Wallace never forgot his sword in real life, Mel's forgetfulness became part of the charm behind the scenes. Despite all the chaos, the final film still portrayed Wallace as a true warrior. Meanwhile, the sword had more handlers than some of the horses on set. Number 8. The movie extras were real Irish Army members. Braveheart is known for its massive battle scenes. Hundreds of soldiers running, yelling, and charging through mud and smoke. However, here is the twist. Most of those extras were not actors. They were real-life members of the Irish Army. The production required disciplined individuals who could follow instructions and work long hours in fake armor. Who better than trained soldiers? About 1,500 members of the Irish Defence Forces were hired for the battle scenes. They were given costumes and taught how to swing foam swords without hurting each other. It worked beautifully. They were already used to marching and formations, and their movements looked natural. Their timing was precise, and their discipline added realism that money cannot buy. They were also funny. Some of the extras played both English and Scottish roles on the same day. One soldier joked that he lost his life 3 times in the same battle scene. Another claimed he recognized himself in 5 different places when the film was edited together. They were also known to tease Mel Gibson behind the scenes. He took it in stride and called them the most professional yet cheekiest bunch he had ever worked with. Braveheart's army may have fought for freedom on screen, but off-screen they just wanted to get paid and go home. Number 7. Extras were caught wearing wristwatches. Braveheart is set in the 13th century, a time of swords, shields, and bagpipes. You would not expect to see anything modern, but sharp-eyed fans noticed something odd. A few extras were spotted wearing wristwatches. In the middle of a bloody battle, you can catch a flash of shiny metal on someone's wrist. Not exactly medieval fashion. The filmmakers were not thrilled. These little mistakes slipped through during filming. With so many people on set, it was nearly impossible to catch everything. Once they noticed, crew members had to run around reminding extras to remove their watches. Some extras tried to hide them under their sleeves, others simply forgot. The editors later worked hard to crop out or blur the modern accessories. Still, a few scenes made it into the final cut with a sneaky timepiece in the background. It became a running joke among fans. Some even claimed it was a time travel subplot. In truth, it was merely a case of modern life infiltrating medieval times. The watch-wearing extras were likely just trying to keep track of how long they had been rolling around in mud. After all, 13th century warriors might not have had watches, but 21st century extras did. Number 6. Ireland stood in for Scotland. Braveheart may be all about Scottish freedom, but most of it was actually filmed in Ireland. While the story is set in the Highlands, the movie magic happened across the Irish countryside. The Irish government offered tax breaks, and the terrain was close enough to Scottish landscapes to fool the eye. Fields in County Meath, Trim Castle, and the Wicklow Mountains became the backdrop for Wallace's journey. Some locals were hired as extras. Others watched in amusement as fake castles and battle camps sprang up overnight. Even some battle scenes were shot near military camps to take advantage of Irish Army extras. The move ultimately proved successful. Ireland's weather, wild hills, and ancient castles gave Braveheart the raw look it needed. While real Scots may have wished for more filming to take place at home, most viewers likely never noticed. The final product still captured the spirit of rebellion and pride. Behind the scenes, however, a few jokes circulated, such as how a film about Scottish identity was mostly shot in Ireland with Irish soldiers. It is ironic, but that is Hollywood. Ireland played Scotland better than Scotland could afford to, and no one complained when the Oscar arrived. Number 5. Rubber-made weapons. When you think of Braveheart, you imagine brutal battles, clashing swords, and axes flying through the air. What you probably do not imagine is rubber. Yet, that is exactly what many of the weapons in Braveheart were made of. While the characters yelled for freedom, they were actually swinging foam and latex. The rubber weapons were a clever safety choice. With hundreds of extras charging at each other and swords flying left and right, real metal weapons would have turned the set into a first aid clinic. So the props team got creative. They designed flexible weapons that could look deadly but feel like pool noodles. Some swords were so bendy that they flopped in slow motion. If you watch closely, there are moments when a supposedly sharp blade wiggles on screen. Of course, camera angles, fast editing, and dramatic sound effects often covered this up. Actors found it hilarious. Some had trouble staying in character after taking a bounce from a rubber mace, but safety was the top priority. With so much chaos on set, foam weapons kept the bruises to a minimum and the filming moving forward. So while Braveheart may appear to be a gritty tale of ancient warfare, it is secretly filled with fake weapons and stunt safe swings. The next time you watch a bloody battle, just remember someone might have yelled freedom while holding a sword softer than a pillow. Next. Number 4. Many scenes, same location. To be honest, Braveheart feels like a journey across vast lands, but in reality, many scenes were filmed in the same few spots. The crew used clever camera angles, foggy weather, and set dressing to make one field look like many. Surprising, right? A single stretch of countryside in Ireland was used for multiple battles. Add a different flag, shoot from the other side, and suddenly it becomes a brand new location. The same hill might host Wallace's first rally, then his final charge just 30 minutes later in the movie. This reuse saved time and money. Moving the entire crew, horses, and equipment for every scene would have been expensive, so instead, the crew got creative. Even some castles were reused with simple changes in lighting and decoration. Extras joked about dying in one spot, cleaning up, and returning to die again 10 feet away. It was movie recycling at its finest. Unless you are really paying attention, you probably never noticed. Interestingly, Braveheart transformed a few Irish hills into the entirety of medieval Scotland. With a bit of mist and a lot of planning, the crew pulled off an epic journey using the same patch of ground more than once. You might be lost in thought right now. Number 3. Mel Gibson was almost injured on set of... Filming Braveheart was not just exhausting, it was risky. During one intense battle scene, Mel Gibson had a close call that almost sent him to the emergency room. While directing and acting at the same time, he stepped a little too close to a galloping horse. One wrong cue and the horse came charging in his direction. Mel ducked just in time. The horse missed him by a few inches. Crew members screamed, thinking they had just lost their lead actor and director in one shot, but Gibson stood up, brushed the dust off, and cracked a joke. After that scare, the production took even stricter precautions with battle choreography. Horses were only allowed to move on double confirmation. Everyone paid extra attention to where Mel stood. It was not the only near miss. In another moment, a flying prop nearly hit a camera operator. With swords swinging, arrows flying, and chaos all around, it is amazing no one left with serious injuries. Braveheart may have told the story of brave warriors, but it also showed the bravery of a director willing to risk it all. Thankfully, Mel survived every scene with his nose, limbs, and reputation intact. Number 2. The film caused a tourism boom. After Braveheart was released, fans did more than cheer in theaters. They booked trips, lots of them. The movie sparked a significant tourism surge in Scotland, despite most of the filming taking place in Ireland. People wanted to visit Wallace's homeland, see the castles, and walk the same hills as the freedom fighter. Scottish tourism officials welcomed them with open arms. Braveheart tours popped up, Wallace souvenirs lined store shelves, and local businesses thrived. The Wallace Monument, a historical site that had been relatively quiet, suddenly saw massive crowds. Tourists painted their faces blue and posed for dramatic photos on the hillsides. Some even quoted the film's lines, loudly declaring their love of freedom. There was one tiny detail most fans ignored. Much of what they were seeing had nothing to do with the real Wallace or the real filming locations. Still, the emotion and drama of the movie created a new fascination with Scottish history. Tourism boomed, and the film was partly to thank for this success. Braveheart did not just entertain people. It got them packing suitcases and heading to the Highlands in search of legends, landscapes, and maybe a few bagpipes. Number 1. The White Car. Braveheart is filled with dramatic speeches, intense sword fights, and epic battles from the past. What it should not have is a modern white car, but somehow it ended up in the film. During one wide battlefield shot, a tiny white car was parked quietly in the distance. It is easy to overlook, but for those who pause the scene, it is an unforgettable mistake. In the middle of a medieval war, a car just sits there, patiently waiting like it belongs. Unfortunately, 13th century warriors did not drive Toyotas or Mercedes. How did it happen? Some believe the car belonged to a crew member who forgot to move it. Others say it was a background error that went unnoticed until it was too late. Either way, it became one of Braveheart's funniest bloopers. Fans now look for it on rewatch. It has become a running joke. Some say it is Wallace's getaway ride. Others believe it belongs to a time traveler who missed their exit. For a movie so focused on gritty realism, the quiet appearance of a modern car adds an oddly charming flaw. It is proof that even epic films are not immune to the occasional parking mistake. Did you ever spot the car yourself? Or do you think someone on set just really needed a snack run? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. Before you go, explore the other videos on your screen.